Holy cow, this has been a hot summer. We've had 15 days already. It's mid-June, well, late June, 25th of June. We've had 15 days already over 100 degrees. That's not a record, but it's right up there with some of the hottest summers we've had, and it's some of the hottest I can remember in a while. Usually, you know, in the summertime we get up over 100 degrees a couple of times, but not 15 days. You know, that's pretty rare actually. And we're not even at the hottest part of the year. Usually the hottest part of the year is August. So we're in the middle of a drought. There's been no rain. It's just crazy hot, dry. The grass is dead. I mean, the good thing is I haven't had to mow the yard in about 3 weeks because nothing is growing. And you can probably see this behind me. I mean, there's nothing growing. Let me turn the camera around here. I'll show you. Hot and dry. Look at that. This has not been mowed in at least 3 weeks. And it doesn't need mowed because it's so hot and so dry. So the question is, how are the quail doing? Or how are they handling the heat? It's 101 degrees outside right now, the air temperature, 101 degrees. Now it is evening time, the sun's starting to go down, so it's gonna cool off a little bit. It's only gonna get down to the 80s tonight, so it's not gonna cool off a lot. So how are the quail handling this 15 days of over 100 degrees? That's what we're gonna discuss. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris. If you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to raise your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's what you want to do. But today we're going to be talking about how your quail handle the heat of summer. There's a couple of things, I've talked about this in video many times, but it's a question that comes up very frequently. So figured it'd be a good idea, timely, to shoot a video, discuss it for some of my new subscribers, new people to the channel that may not have had this question answered for them before. The short answer is they do fine. They acclimate to the temperatures pretty well, and they actually handle it really well. But there are a few things that you do need to do to make sure they stay cool and comfortable, or as cool as can be and comfortable. One of those things is, of course, make sure they have access to fresh water all the time. Now, I use this 5-gallon bucket here with an automatic watering system. I've got videos on how I built that. I'll try to remember to put a link up here at one side of the screen. Try to remember to put a link up there for that video that shows you how to build one of those automatic watering systems if you want to. That makes sure they have water all the time. It doesn't get filthy, it stays clean, and it works out really well. One of the other most important things you can do for them is keep them in the shade. And I've got them in this area where I've got tree cover over the top of them. So I'm pretty lucky in that aspect, is this section never gets direct sun. So there's never direct sun beating down on the quail hutch itself. It's still pretty hot inside the quail hutch. We said 101 out here. Let me get my little thermometer going here. We'll shoot it inside the quail hutch. It's reading 99 degrees. I don't know if you can see that or not. 99.5 degrees inside the quail hutch. Put it on one of the quail themselves. The quail is 100 degrees. But if I hit it out in the sunny spot of the yard, 102, 103 degrees out in the sunny spot of the yard. Yeah, 103 degrees. So just putting them over here, and it's starting to cool down because, like I said, the sun is actually starting to drop. It's evening time here. It was way hotter than that earlier out here. It was about 115 where the sun was hitting the grass, 115 degrees. But you know, the animals handle that stuff a lot better than we do, I think. It's actually been, as hot as it's been fairly low humidity, so it's a little bit more tolerable for me, but it doesn't seem to affect the quail one way or the other. You might be able to see them behind me. They're just meandering around the cage. You'll see one panting every once in a while. They pant for a few minutes here or there. Mostly when I'm around, it seems like it makes them nervous, so they start panting a little bit more. If I back away from the cages, you hardly even see them panting, and it's 100 degrees inside that cage right now. So the other thing that you need to do is to make sure that you have a section of the cage at least that has plenty of ventilation, plenty of airflow, so they get a good breeze that goes through there. That's important for multiple reasons, but especially important whenever it comes to the heat of summer, giving them some air flowing through their cage. If you have a good shady spot, they get good airflow, they can handle incredibly high temperatures and do just fine, as long as they have access to water all the time. You don't want to let them run out of water because that can be detrimental, and it doesn't take very long at all. Okay, there are, of course, other things that you can do for your quail if you want them to be extra comfortable, or if you feel like you need to do that. I don't feel like it's necessary because, like I said, they do just fine as long as you give them a shady spot, ventilation, access to fresh water at all times. Their egg laying hasn't slowed down. I'm still getting fertile eggs out of them. Nothing has changed. It hasn't affected them one bit. They're doing just fine. But if you want to take extra steps, you can do extra things for them. You could put a fan on them. You don't want to put a fan that blows directly on them necessarily, but you put a fan on to circulate air, to just blow over the top of them maybe, to kind of get a breeze going, a little bit of circulated air in there. That'll help a little bit. If you live in a very dry climate, here it doesn't work usually. Like I said, it's been pretty dry lately. The humidity's been pretty low, which makes the heat a little more tolerable. But usually our humidity is up in the 70% range. So this doesn't work for us. But if you live in a dry climate where you have fairly low humidity on a regular basis, you can set up misters. You wouldn't want to mist the quail themselves, but mist the hutch itself. And as that evaporates, that will cool it down several degrees. That keeps it very, very cool. It doesn't work here because our humidity is usually too high and the water doesn't evaporate. It just sticks. Usually you walk outside even at 85 or 90 degrees and you're just drenched with sweat in no time at all because it's not evaporating off of you. Whereas I've been standing out here it's 100 degrees out, a little over 100, 101 I think is the temperature right now. And I've been standing out here talking to you and I don't really have any sweat on me because it's just evaporating right off of me, which is what makes it feel a little bit more comfortable right now. Now the birds don't sweat, but they don't seem to mind. It doesn't really bother them too much whether it's humid out or not humid out. As long as they're in the shade, they don't have direct sun beating down on them. And I would encourage you to try to find a spot where it's not just the shade of the roof of the hutch that provides them with shade, but shade the entire hutch somehow or another. I'm lucky I have this tree cover here. This is a whole wooded section, and it does stay much cooler right in this area of the yard than it does anywhere else because of the tree cover, because the sun never hits the ground here. It's never direct sunlight on the ground or on the hutch itself. So if you can set up something similar to them, my rabbit hutch sits on the north side of my house so that the shadow of the house is always over the rabbit hutch. No sun hits that. You can do something similar for your quail. But give them some shade, make sure that they don't have direct sun beating down on them, and they're going to handle the temperatures just fine. I've got viewers that live in Arizona where it gets much, much hotter than it does here, and their quail do just fine, and they use just the same things that I do. You can freeze bottles of water if you want to, 2-liter bottles of water, and throw them in there. I don't do that because it's just extra work that I would have to do. And not only that, but I don't notice the birds really reacting to that. I've tried it with my rabbits, I've tried it with my birds, and I don't notice them really interacting with those bottles at all. I don't notice that it does much good for them. And those things melt, and by noon, the hottest part of the day, when I leave for work, if I throw one in here in the morning, by the time it gets to the hottest part of the day, that water is melted, or that ice is melted, and it's just warm water at that point. So it's really not doing any good. So if you want to go out and switch them out a couple of times a day, or just wait till afternoon and throw one in there, you can definitely do that, but it's not necessary. Don't feel guilty if you're not going to do those extra things for them, because they can handle these temperature swings relatively well. In fact, incredibly well. They handle the cold of winter incredibly well. They're very, very hardy birds, and they adjust to all this stuff incredibly well. You don't have to do anything special for them. Keep them out of the direct sun, give them ventilation, give them plenty of water. That's really all they need. You can put your mind at ease. You don't have to worry about the heat. So anyway, hopefully this answered a few questions for you. We can get in here and take a close look at the quail if you want. They've kind of calmed down a little bit. They're not really panting too much right now. Let's take a look at them real quick and we'll show you how they're doing. Alright, so I don't know if you can see through the cage where I don't want to open it up and pester them too much. That is the other thing I should say is I try not to get out here and pester these birds when it's the hottest part of the day. Try to save my chores for evening and night. But you can see, I mean, they're just hanging out, no problems. I got one bird back there that's molting. You might be able to see the feathers lost. Let's open up this side, see how many birds we got in the sandbox. I bet they're hanging out in there. I can't open this one-handed, I don't think. Okay, I can't open this door one-handed, so I'll open it up. We'll take a look at them and see how they're doing in here. So there's all the birds inside, and of course they're getting flustered because I'm opening the door and freaking them out a little bit, but you can see I've got eggs in there. Birds are perfectly comfortable. These birds aren't even panting. I mean, they're doing just fine. Hopefully you can see that. I didn't open it up all the way. I don't know how well it showed up on film yet. Just kind of an interesting side note. I saw something the other day that said, You know, it was talking about the air temperature and the temperature on the ground. When the air temperature is a certain temperature, the temperature on the ground's way higher than that. And to keep your pets inside, don't take them on walks during that time of the day because it can injure them. They could suffer from it. You know, I open the door and my dog comes running out and lays in the grass, in the sunniest spot in the grass. It's 105 degrees out, and he lays right in the sun on the sunny spot of the grass and just basks in the sun. It doesn't bother him one bit. Animals handle this stuff a lot better than we do. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that you leave your dog outside during the heat of the day, or you put your birds in the direct sunshine, any of those kinds of things. You do want to try to protect them from that stuff as much as you can, but it doesn't affect them nearly as much as what we think it does. You don't need to overcomplicate things. So hopefully this video puts your mind at ease. If you were worried about how hot it is outside and how your quail are handling it, they're going to do just fine. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, God bless.